Welcome to the show, everybody. It's there's something to be said about talking to other people. I do my show sometimes solo. In fact, most of my shows tend to be solo, and I really love getting to know other people, especially you, chat. I mean, part of the one thing that's always there whenever I'm doing my show, albeit solo or not, is you. And I always appreciate that. But today I have a wonderful guest. His name is Christian Watson. Welcome to the show, Christian. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Adam? Good to be here. Finally, it's
I'm,
been a long while since I've been watching you, and I'm just happy to finally
yeah.
be here.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you very much.
absolutely,
I appreciate that. Yeah.
absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, and I followed you for quite some time, and you have very good points. And what I like about let me just introduce you, I guess first. Christian runs his own show. It's called Pensive Politics on YouTube, and you're quite outspoken. You're a political commentator, and you are. Well, I mean, how? What am I missing? Anything else that you would add to that?
Oh well, when it comes to titles, I've always wondered what do I call myself, because some titles can give one the feeling of self importance, and
Okay.
you know, as someone who practices philosophy, the
Hmm.
most important thing for me is to get get the fact out that I am not at all, in the grand scheme of things, all that important. I'm important to a certain degree,
Well,
but
none
the
of us
pursuit
are.
of knowledge, right? But the pursuit of knowledge and us being able to understand the world and then transferring our understanding, hopefully accurate understanding or semi-accurate understanding, to posterity. That's what's important, and
I
that's
like that.
that's the tradition I see myself in. But yeah, I do a I have a YouTube show. Well, I guess it's call it a show. I mean, Pensive Politics has been integrated with my YouTube channel, which is called Christian Watson, and I just really try to approach politics and culture and social issues from a different point of view, different in terms of manner. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't talk about the underlying principles of things. A lot of folks like to stay on the surface and get mad, but
Yeah.
there is a richness beneath the depths of the political conversation, regardless on whatever issue, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's critical race theory, on any issue. There's a richness of principles hidden beneath there that if people were to understand, not only would it make them have, or help them have rather, better political calculations, it would also help them enrich their own lives because they have more information by which to live by.
I like
That's
that.
my goal, to give people a different kind of information to understand the world and maybe even themselves through.
I like that. I mean, and you've gone out and actually. So I always ask people, how do you go about doing that? Obviously, you have a show and you're, uh, going on different shows. You're on my show. We're talking about this kind of stuff. You've actually gone out and you had a video. Um, you talked to a Groiper, one of Nick
Ah, man.
Fuentes's guys.
Yes.
We don't need to get
Yes.
into the details of it, but
We
what I
can. I don't
found
mind.
what I liked about it though is that you went and talked to this guy. You went and talked to him,
Yeah.
and you made it clear um you just wanted to talk to them, and that it was about just getting to know them and maybe having them get to know you a little bit. And you had the conversation was really interesting that you had between the two, with cultures, and you went on to explain when you were talking about it, how culture itself has nothing to do with skin color, and that's a huge problem. And I love that, and I wanted to talk about that with you because
Yeah.
I was told recently that white people don't have culture, and I was like, that is the silliest thing I've ever heard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like, what is
Mm-hmm.
culture? Like, what you define culture, and it's like, well, my personal culture. First off, I don't think white in that bracket at all. I just think, well, what I grew up doing. I had Swedish
Mm-hmm.
grandparents, so I have like maybe some Swedish traditions. I called them Mormor and Morfar, which is Swedish for grandma and grandpa. So it's like that's my personal culture, but like I don't know what your culture is, or like maybe you have Swedish grandparents also. Like, would that, and I just thought that was so silly, and you broke it down so well. What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, before I go on, I must ask, because Sweden and Scandinavia and that entire area interests me from a historical and a political standpoint. I think the history of Scandinavia is quite rich. I've always really been into the Nordic mythology and the culture of the Vikings. So, like, have you ever been to Sweden before?
Many times, and my wife is Swedish.
Oh, oh, awesome. Well, how is it
Yeah.
over there? How is it
It's
over there? I'm curious.
amazing. I've
Yeah.
traveled back and forth for 7 years, yeah,
Wow.
and I was there a few times over the past 2020 since 2020, and
Yeah.
no masks anywhere. Life
Yep.
just felt normal.
They
People
did
weren't
a much
freaking out.
better job of handling COVID. Sweden did a much better job of handling COVID than many other countries in the West did.
It
Without no,
really
like,
does
hands down.
feel that way. Yeah,
Yeah,
and, the numbers don't lie. I mean, they never lock down. And, it's crazy, though. It's written in their constitution that they're not allowed to prevent people from gathering because it's a direct link between keeping people from talking and the rise of dictators. And
right.
so it's in their
Absolutely.
constitution, like,
And
maybe we should,
yeah,
not prevent people from talking. And
especially
they did. They
yeah.
followed through.
Sorry. Especially considering the political history of Sweden, where I think one of their presidents, I forgot what his name was, had some association with Hitler.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah, I forgot what his name was. He was president during World War II, and I think he had some sympathies or association with Hitler. And so I would
Interesting.
understand. I would be interested to see when that part of the Constitution came in, because no, I think the Swedish have it absolutely right on this issue. There is an absolute link between shutting down people's ability to interact and
Yep.
a dictator or a government being able to control the information that you have. With social
Absolutely.
media, it's like the world we live in is like a simulation almost. We put ourselves
Almost.
in the simulation. We put ourselves in the simulation. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. A lot of folks presume that they are in a simulation by default. That's not the case. Reality is
Okay.
resolute, as I like to say. Reality is resolute. It is commanding, and the simulation that we have relies on reality to exist. If reality
Hmm.
didn't exist, the simulation wouldn't exist per se. So you can still go out, you can still talk to people. In fact, I promise you, if a lot of these internet politics people went out and actually talked to other people, they would realize just how silly some of the fights they have are, just
True.
how silly some of the generalized claims they have. Like this idea that, oh my gosh, all of society is wanting kids to go ahead and be taught gender identity stuff, which is not true. A segment of society certainly does, and they need to be fought to the death, tooth and nail,
Agreed.
as much as possible. But
100%.
most people have no interest in that. Most people don't even know what that is. I
Right.
think sometimes people overestimate just how far the political spreads. I call it the interaction between the personal and the sort of local, right? Okay,
Yeah.
what exists in my life, in my heart, must be true for everybody, which is not the case. So I think that we should all
Right.
check our own assumptions in that case before, because so many people have this doomsday view of the world, and I get
Yeah, they
accused of
do.
being an optimist. Someone called me a
Me
tragic
too.
optimist one time,
A
but
tragic
I
optimist.
just,
I've never heard that. I
yes.
like that, though.
Yeah, they sent me an article from the Atlantic which said tragic optimism, which is just this constant happy-go-lucky attitude that offers no room for the negatives of life. And I said, well, I don't. That's not how I view things.
Hmm.
I do offer room for the negatives of life because life has plenty of negatives about it. In fact,
True.
I endorse the belief that life is a constant conflict between who you are right now and who you're going to be in a year, a month, a day. There's a
Yeah.
conflict, there's a tension, because who you are right now has the ability to change and shift, no matter how old you are, who you're
Well,
going to be
wait.
tomorrow.
Well,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be more of the battle between your future self and your past self, and that whoever's winning the battle is who you are at the moment, right?
Well, the interesting thing about that, yeah, yeah, and the interesting thing about that is, though, what is our past self? I
Our
mean,
our
I
it's all of our experiences. It's what we are
yeah,
what our minds are built,
yeah,
like we build our experience, like our conscious mind, off of our past, right? And some people can't
absolutely.
let a lot of that go. um
Yes, yes,
I,
absolutely,
I'd
absolutely.
like to
And
think that I'm more of a optimistic realist, right?
okay,
And
yeah,
I feel that
yeah,
more for me too. I mean, optimism is amazing. I mean, really, a state of
yes,
mind is really important. A lot of people fall into needing to stay angry because anger is actually addictive, isn't it? I mean, that's
yes, yes,
they
yes,
need to stay angry, and then people are telling them to stay angry. I don't know. We need more optimistics, even if they're tragic in this world.
Yes, I agree. I agree because ultimately there is a direct link between how you think and how you act. This is the cause and effect relationship of our thoughts. And
Yep.
ultimately, if you think in a certain way, you're going to act in a certain way. And so I think that it's really easy to be consumed by the news, consumed by so much things going on, this talk of bioweapons labs in Ukraine and this talk of the inflation in gas prices, everything that's going, critical race there, everything that's going on, that very
Yeah.
few of us actually take a step back and realize that this is a complex world with many different facets, and we're only getting 0.5%, if even that, that's being generous, of the things about this world. There are so many. There's a reason why most people in America and in general are apolitical. The reason why most of them don't pay attention to politics, because it's
Hmm.
so easy. It really is easy, believe it or not, to avoid politics if you isolate yourself enough.
Trust me, I know.
It
That was
it's
my
not life.
entire adult life until
Yeah,
2020. I was
yeah,
apolitical. I just didn't pay attention. I did my own
yeah.
thing. I was busy living my life, um, how what made me happy, right?
And there's a
And I
danger
think
in that too. Yeah,
Oh, absolutely, I agree.
yeah,
Now that I've opened the door and I see how important it is to be a part of the conversation, granted, I'm still trying to find the balance of how much I have that conversation, and how much I let it in before it starts taking my optimism away and red or doom pilling myself or black pilling, as they say.
yeah.
I am finding this balance, and I still think I need to step further away from where I am. Um, because as you said, there's
Yeah.
or you started saying that there's so much that people it's very easy to tune out because to fully understand all of it takes a lot. I
Yes.
still don't understand all of it, and all I do is read the news. All I do is try to understand what's happening and who's doing what and what's the real story and this and that. And I feel like I just peeled away the first layer of the onion and I'm like, "Oh my god, look how many layers there are." You know?
There's too many. There's too
Too
many.
many.
But that's
Mhm.
that's part of the journey.
Yeah.
That journey is so much more exciting than destination because the destination signals finality. Okay, I've reached this place. Now my progress has stopped. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
But the journey, I can go on all kind of different detours, and that could lead me to new discoveries, new paths, new realizations. The journey is what's really fun. And so I just thought I would begin with that because that's just something I like people to just think about because I think that so many people
Yeah, I love
forget
that.
that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that. I mean, part
but
part of
yeah,
living is realizing that you're alive and
yeah,
this
yeah,
is the journey, right? There's this
mhm,
quote that I love referencing a lot because I feel like I've reached the point in the quote, and it's everyone
mhm,
has two lives, and the second one
mm,
begins when you realize you only have one, and I love that,
yes,
because I thought I
yep,
was gonna live forever when I was in my 20s, when I was a teenager, because I never thought about it. I never had a frame of reference as far as like time passing. Where now I just turned 38 on Monday. I'm
wow,
reaching this point where I'm like, man, I'm like almost 40, and that I did, if you would have told me, you know, 10 years ago, hey, what do you think life's gonna feel like when you're almost 40? And I'm like, I'm not thinking that. I'm not thinking about being 40 one day because that's old. Like 40 to me now, I don't think that's old because like I don't feel old. Um, but life is moving along, it's moving right along. And I'm like, I love my life. I love what I'm doing. But the the end, I don't know when the end's gonna be, but I want to enjoy the journey as much as I can. Um, and help as much as I can. And that goes back to bringing up purpose, which I feel
yep,
a lot of people are lacking. And these people that are angry, these people that small minority that we were talking about,
yeah,
um, they don't have a purpose, and they've found a purpose in fighting for to to prove that how virtuous they are to others. That's what it feels like,
yes,
you know?
yes, yes, oh yes, and I was recently talking about this in my latest video about the University of North Texas situation, where the kids
Wait,
there
what is
can
it?
University of North Texas situation where the
Okay.
father Jeff Younger went to go
Oh,
speak
right.
and he was shouted down. Yeah, yeah, and what I found interesting about that situation wasn't the fact that the kids were screaming or that the people were sitting on top of tables and shouting slurs at him. Well, the
Mhm.
most interesting thing is that you're seeing the results of 50, 60 plus years of postmodernism and other kind of weary ideologies infecting the minds of these students. And then you're seeing them construct their own reality around the lies they've been told. Because if you really look at it, here's how I like to process and visualize information, the process of information. So we're all human beings. I believe all human beings have a soul. Now, this idea typically has a religious connotation. That's not the sense I'm using it in. Now,
Okay.
personally, in my personal faith, I am a Christian, but that's not the sense I'm using it in. This can be used secularly as well. So I think
Well,
the soul
I'm
is
not religious, and I
yes,
agree. I
yes. I
still
think the
think that
soul
there is an essence of a soul.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think the soul, I would call the soul the characteristics of being human that are not immediately visible. Our emotions, our values, our beliefs. None of those things are immediately visible unless I show them to you. I have to show you my emotions for you to really know how I'm feeling.
Okay.
Some people show
Yeah.
them pretty much on their face, but most people can hide it. That's why we have a society of people who are suffering high rates of mental health issues all across the board, because a lot of folks have been bound by their own experience, trapped by their own experience, and hiding how they feel for various reasons that would take us a very long time to discuss. Maybe we can
Yeah.
come back to that as well. But so it's easy to hide all the things in the soul. And the soul processes information the same way we do, through observation. And our observation, however, is inherently limited because our life, our ability to do things, our actions, us being human, that's inherently limited. Human beings have limitations. Some human beings can lift, I don't know, 50 pounds a deadlift, whatever, I don't know. It's probably not a lot. But some human beings can lift heavy weights. Other human beings like me would struggle to lift like 10 pounds because we all have different limitations. Now, if I train myself, I'm sure I could eventually do it. But it looks painful. But maybe I'll work my way up to it. And so keeping in mind the two things I mentioned, that all human beings have a soul, and the soul is we cannot see immediately, and all human beings have limitations, we can see how this easily applies to knowledge. Because we, in the sense that we're limited in terms of what we can do, we're also limited in terms of what we can and what we can process. We're not all-knowing people. Yeah, we're not all-knowing people. Our knowledge is limited to observation. We cannot observe all things at all times. Even if you had a computer system that could theoretically observe every environment in the world, everything in the world, you would still miss something because, again, not everything is going to be perceptible to you. So this is where the professors and the indoctrination comes in. Because the moment I feed you something, and that's the only interaction you've ever had with that something. Let's give a concrete example. In the video of the protest, they were shouting to Jeff Younger, "F you, fascist." Right. Okay. So they never explained how he was a fascist. They never even explained what fascism meant. But it's very easy to see how the kids in that video, given their supposed ideology, would view him as a fascist, because fascism has become a slur word associated with every single person or thing that you don't like, particularly if you're on the left. It's a political buzzword at this point. Yep. So what I did, I went back to the foundations of fascism, because if you want to understand something truly, go back to its foundations, right? If you want to understand if you want to understand a car or understand a house and the age of a house, it's best to understand its foundations. What ground was it built off of? When was this ground cultivated? Yeah. So I went back to Mussolini's version of fascism, because there were two versions of fascism. There was Hitler's version of fascism and Mussolini's version of fascism. Hitler's version of fascism had to do with the Aryan race. Mussolini's had to do with this sort of subservience to the state, to the government. And he says in his work, Doctrine of Fascism, that literally there is no life outside of the government. The government is the beginning and end of history. The individual does not exist but to be a part of the collective. Yeah. A fascist is someone who believes those things and puts some sort of identity over that belief and follows it to their death. Now, Jeff Younger, all he wanted to do was make sure his kid, which is like 3 or something, was not forced to transition or was not led down a path which would have him transition to being something that he couldn't reverse. Yeah. So in that sense, Jeff Younger is actually an individualist because he wants to preserve his kid's ability to choose his individual identity when he's grown enough and old enough to understand what's going on.
Right.
And yet, that very fact, which contradicts the claim of fascism, does not matter because their souls are tied to a false idea. The number one problem in the political world today is the fact that so many people's souls on both the left and the right are tied down to false ideas given to them by uncritically examined experiences.
Yeah.
Emerson made a very important point in Self-Reliance. He said that you have to not let dead things weigh you down if they're not going to be a benefit to who you are right now or who you want to be in the future. He said that if a pastor gets up and speaks, do I not already know what he's going to say because he has the weight of the entire institution, the history of the entire institution behind him? But if he was his own kind of pastor with his own kind of individual identity, then I have no idea what he's going to say. And that's what makes things exciting. This sort of predictability of consistency in every aspect is what's destroying us. And being consistent is not a bad thing. I think it's important to be morally consistent, but be consistent with the right things. Don't be consistent with ideas that were inflicted upon you by your upbringing, by your family, by your tradition. Be consistent with principles that are eternal, that you can understand and get the reason that will help you get to your next level. But so many people think of politics. Yeah, sorry.
No,
sorry.
That's fine. You actually you're clearly very familiar with Emerson. And it reminds me of another thing that you mentioned from him. It says envious ignorance. Is that it?
Oh yes. Yes. Well,
and what you were hold on, let me get this thought out. So what you were just saying, it's almost as if they're envious of the ability to stand on your own, right? It's very easy to go with this group think, which you see that classroom and they're all chanting and pounding the tables, and ironically they're the fascists in this situation because they're like, we're being told this is how it is, and we're of course shouting at you, but it's almost like they're all angry that they can't go out and be an individual, like they're demanding, I'm an individual, look at me, when in reality it's all backwards, right? So it's actually like I see it as envy that they can't go out and do that. You see what I'm saying here?
Yes. And that quote from Emerson, I believe he says there will come a time in every man's education where he realizes that envy is ignorance and imitation is suicide. There will come a time in your man, now that idea, no one listens to it anymore, man. Right. That no one listens to that idea anymore.
Not at all.
Going on. No,
I actually, hold on. I want to tell you. So the other day, I came to this realization that we are in a time competing for consumption instead of competing to create, and it's like that. It goes hand in hand because we are so obsessed with consuming everything and regurgitating everything. Like the Obi-Wan show is coming out soon, and all it is just regurgitated Star Wars stuff because Disney can't make up new stuff because they're too worried, they're too afraid to come out and do something new, even though it's a risk. They'd rather go with the tried and true. And it's like, I mean, that's just one example. I mean, there's plenty out there.
Well, I wish I don't disagree with you, Adam, because I'm a bit of a Star Wars nerd myself.
I love Star Wars. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And Ewan McGregor's awesome.
Yeah. No. Here's the thing. I wish Disney would stick with the tried and true, because if they had done that, the expanded universe would have never been eliminated. They basically just said all the comic books, all the movies, all of the post-Galactic Empire falling, the Yuuzhan Vong, Admiral Thrawn, all of that. Goodbye, you're legends, and we'll use you if we see fit. And they concoct this crappy Kylo Ren and all the teenage drama.
Well, they're taking what's tried and true and saying, well, this the shallow version of it. It's like focusing on skin color. You know, it's like that they're so shallow about it. Well, it's Luke Skywalker, though. You know, it's the same character. You know, and of course, but they're who he is completely right. They're taking the soundtrack, the lightsabers, and like, so they think that they know what's better for Star Wars, so they're altering it. So, so it
Yes.
isn't tried and true, right? So, so what I said, you were more accurate there, right? I mean, I wish they would stick with what was actually canon, even though they came out and said, "Well, we had no source material," which is absolutely
Mm-mm.
ridiculous.
You
Yeah.
would think one of the largest corporations on the face of the planet in creative industry would have some minds there saying, okay, look, this Admiral Thrawn stuff, we could do an entire series off of this. Oh, this Yuuzhan Vong stuff. Oh, this New Republic stuff. Come on, but no, they didn't want to do it. So
No,
it's just
they're reestablishing Star Wars to be Disney's. That's why
yeah,
Mandalorian was so good. They
yeah,
wanted, because Mandalorian was a Disney created character, right?
yeah,
They started that. So like, all right, we're gonna make this really awesome so
yeah,
that people think about Mandalorian. They're like, man, Mandalorian was good. Sure was.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Disney
Um,
killed Star Wars.
I,
Sorry, what were
I
we
think
talking about? I don't remember what we were
yeah.
talking
Sorry,
about.
that's good. We were talking about imitation. So
Yeah,
yeah, no, look.
right, right.
Unfortunately, the problem with imitation goes all the way back to ancient Greece. There
Mm,
have always been folks that have looked up this idea of what a great man is, and they've tried to adapt their own behavior to it.
mm,
And the Prince Machiavelli is talking all about how imitation is important, and how there are just certain men in history that you'll never be like. You got to imitate, like Alexander the Great, and imitate him and all his qualities. And the thing about the transcendentalists, they come along and they say, hold on, no. There is something special about you, about your particular blueprint, your DNA, that no other man on this earth has ever bore in his body. There's something very particular about you, and that makes you special. And that's why Thoreau says in Walden, taking this idea that he got from Emerson, who was his mentor, he says that I should not be compelled to do something that rebels against my, what he calls, genius. Now, when folks say genius, think of Einstein. That's not what he's saying is that all of us have a quality about ourselves that is uniquely ours, our genius, that compels us to do certain things and compels us to stay away from certain things. So Thoreau explains this. He says, if I don't have a genius towards charity, you ought not try to make me be charitable. I, as a dictate of my conscience, will decide if I will be charitable or not. I
mm.
should not be compelled to work against my genius. And when you have this radically individualistic idea about identity and skills and the self, you basically throw out not only thousands of years of thinking about imitation, you also directly challenge the conventions right now. The Instagram era, the Twitter era, where imitation is basically seen as a way for you to matter in the digital world.
Yeah.
Imitation is seen as a way for you to, I don't know, have clout or whatever in the digital world, because no one has confidence in what they can offer. Back to the students at North Texas.
Right.
Man, I'm hitting something. I think I'm hitting something. If
Do
if
it.
if
You got it.
okay. If there's a reason why none of those kids had the gall to actually challenge Younger on what he was trying to say.
True.
And there's a reason why the only one who even said to them, guys, let's calm down so he can talk so the right doesn't have their media narrative. He's the only one who even seemed to listen. But every time a word came out of Younger's mouth, it was like kryptonite to him. He backed up and said, no, that's not right, without even actually considering, before Younger could even finish his sentence. The truth is, these students are convinced so much by these false ideas that their soul has become so infected with false ideas about fascism and politics that not only have they forgotten or do not know what those things are, they have fundamentally missed out on knowing who they are. Now, how is this so? Because if something that you organize your life around, in this case, these kids, it's their politics, it's their view about social issues, is so fundamentally wrong, even to people that are aligned with you ideologically. You can't even get the basic definition of the word fascism wrong, which is something that an intellectual, left-wing intellectual would get right. I'll give people like Cornel West credit. People like Cornel West is one of the more intelligent leftist, a philosophy professor. He at least knows what these things are. These kids don't know. If you get these basic things wrong and you internalize them to be part of your identity, then you're replacing your true self, or what could be your true self, with a false self. Once again, the
It's
biggest
sad.
problem in our politics, it's sad. The biggest problem in our politics is a lack of self-knowledge born by false realities inflicted upon us by those who should know better, but by
Mm.
not knowing better can maintain their institutional power and their influence
Yep.
over the minds of the people who come into their classrooms, the professors.
Well,
That's the revelation. That's the
well,
revelation.
this is exactly what I'm going to use Democrats, but it's not necessarily Democrats, but it's the people that want control over the
Mm,
populace. They want this to be the case. These people that have replaced their own self-worth um, with this group think that they're not thinking anymore. What are we thinking today? What are we fighting about? Oh, okay, this. All right. Cool, guys. Here's the t-shirt I'm gonna wear. All right, I'm ready to go parade for whatever the I'm told essentially. And vote that way, vote blue no matter who. Okay, cool. It just tends to be more Democrats or um I mean, that just feels that way, right? It now that I know the
yeah.
political scape, I mean, I'm not necessarily Republican either because there's a lot of
Yeah.
Republicans that I don't agree with. I'm for liberty. I'm for freedom and
Yeah.
self accountability, and there's I feel like there anyone on either side could have those types of values, but
Yeah.
it seems to be more right-sided thinking. Is you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think I see what you're saying, and I think you absolutely have a point, because a lot of the censorious behavior we're seeing right now in the political landscape is coming from people who are aligned with the left,
Yeah,
whether it be the Antifa folks, whether it be these college students who can't seem to take another opinion, whether it is definitely coming from the left. But I think one of the problems with our conversation right now is that a lot of people don't realize that the left is more than just its loudest members, and the right is more than just its loudest members. Political spectrums are just so huge and vast that
true.
you can have thousands or even millions of people in the left who are not represented by the loudest voices of the left. Some would consider the philosophy of Christian democracy to be left leaning in a sense, right? It's economically left leaning and economically right and socially right leaning. But a lot of Christian Democrats support they support welfare systems. They support all kind of things that left leaning people would support. But if we just understood left as Republican and Democrat, we wouldn't be able to account for people who don't necessarily fit into that binary. There are some socialists actually that are pacifist socialists. There's actually a movement of pacifist socialists and even Christian socialists. I don't think they're really Christians, but they're Christian socialists who are not really accounted for by the mainstream left. I
Yeah,
think, and there's also a wide range of intellectuals, people like Cornel West and the late Gore Vidal, and even Noam Chomsky, who are decidedly left wing, who may not be accounted for by the most visible of people. On the right, not everyone on the right is a Donald Trump supporter. There are folks on the right that are traditionalists, social conservatives that want to see a moral police enacted and people's behavior tailored to their preferences. They
true.
exist. They are in full force too. And it's not just the evangelical Christians that some people think it is. It's also this new movement called what is called post-liberalism. Now, all that means is that this movement is a collection of people that want to see the United States divorced from its Enlightenment ideas of individualism and personal liberty. And they want to see the community and their idea of virtue be enshrined through law. They are
Right.
a small but a very, very, very vocal minority on the right who actually have some people in Congress right now who are close to their ideas, i.e., Josh Hawley and Marco Rubio. And unfortunately, and Hawley and Rubio, sometimes they do good things, sometimes they do bad things. I'm not making a judgment. All I'm saying is that, unfortunately, these more sinister or these unrecognized political ideologies have the ability to grow because so many people think the left is just Antifa or the right are just Donald Trump supporters. Nope. There's a lot going on. And I think that it's beneficial for all of us not to think of things as Republican or Democrat or even left or right. Think
Well,
of
that's why
things.
I hesitated on it. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
said, I'm like, I don't want to say it because it's not
Yeah,
accurate.
and that's
Um,
okay. But the thing is, it's a very useful way of communicating politics to people because a lot of people
true.
do think this way, and so
Yeah.
sometimes I will even use the term the left because it's a useful way to communicate politics. And I mean, I can't be. No one can blame you or no one can blame me for simply trying to reach people where they are. I don't believe in doing no. Now, okay, there's limits to that, though. I'm not going to be Hillary Clinton and try to say I have hot sauce in my bag. You don't do that. You don't do that.
I
You
do
don't do
love
that
hot
crap.
sauce, though. I'll be
Oh, I
honest.
love. Oh
I
man,
don't carry it around
I
with me.
sriracha is delicious. I love sriracha.
Mm.
I like it's really good. Oh my gosh, sriracha is wonderful. If sriracha wants to sponsor me, man, you can go right ahead. Sriracha is good.
Get in
Tabasco.
line. Get in line, Christian.
Tabasco's okay. I mean, it got a little bit of a tilt. I don't. It tastes too. It has too much vinegar taste to it. Tabasco. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
No,
Yeah,
I
it's the
do.
vinegar
I
taste.
prefer sriracha. Yeah. I asked.
Yeah.
So I had Carrie Smith on my show on Tuesday, and
Oh,
she's
wonderful, wonderful
an
lady.
ex. Yeah, she's fantastic. I don't know if you're familiar with her whole story. She was at SJW for 20 years, or maybe someone's listening right now who doesn't. And it was a great conversation. And in the conversation, there was this point where I'm like, so who is the people like pushing the SJW? Like, who are the people in charge? And she kind of explained it as though it's kind of like this group of people that are all trying to vie for to be the leader, but there is no leader, right? And I was gonna ask you, like, who would you
Hmm.
think like the lead, not necessarily the leader is, but who are these people that are because really the SJW cult, as she likes to put it, because
Yeah.
I mean, we went over a list of like what a cult is. It really does like check all the boxes,
Yeah.
except the leader. Like cults traditionally have like this like this is the leader, everyone follows
Yes.
the leader, and then all of these other things. But all the other things were like that's it, except the leader. But who would you think it is? Like, and what are your thoughts on that question alone? I'm
Yeah.
curious.
I don't think there's one leader for all social justice people. Um,
Yeah.
so social justice has been going on, at least movements around it have been going on since like the late '60s, early '70s. It grew out of this desire to correct what the people in the late '60s, when the civil rights movement was at its zenith, saw as the obstacles faced by so many minorities. And not that's a noble desire, but the problem is they completely butchered the idea of justice whilst going about that noble desire. They
Hmm.
butchered the idea of justice by doing something that is unforgivable. They made the idea of justice conditional. Justice is meant as a universal principle that only means something if I am able to embody it in my own life. So I can be just or unjust towards you, Adam. A system is not a person. It's very hard for a system to have a human characteristic. That's the problem.
Hmm.
Social justice people say the system is unjust. Oh, is it the system or the people in the system who implemented their values through the system? They don't make that distinction. And therefore, justice does not become, is no longer an individual trait of my
Yeah.
actions towards you. Justice is instead an abstract idea which can only be interacted on a broad systemic policy level. And that is wrong, 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 because it cuts out my ability to interact with justice the way that people have been interacting with justice for many, 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 many years.
Yeah.
You don't correct injustice by correcting a system. You correct injustice by correcting an action.
Right.
Systems don't do action, people do. Institutions don't do action, people do. And some people might say I'm splitting hairs. No, I'm trying to be precise because the personification of systems and institutions is precisely why so many people think, so many minorities think they're up against a rock and the hard place in America. Oh, it's the system that's doing this. It's the institution that's doing this. We got to go into politics and fix these policies before I can live a good life. No, 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 no. Not necessarily. Yes, there are policies that have hurt black folk. I'm not denying that. There are people who have been in power who have hurt black folk too. I'm not denying that. What I am denying is that those people's actions are a permanent mark on the system and allow us to indict the system forever and change the meaning of fundamental words. That's just not true. It's a slave mindset to think that all of our problems are due to abstract systems and not due to people with bad intentions who we can fight given the liberties we have in this country that are actually endemic of who we are as human beings. The liberties in the Constitution weren't given to us by the Constitution; they're secured by the Constitution.
Right.
All the liberties that I have are, it's like breathing. It's that they are integral to my nature. And when I realize that, and I can only realize that once I recognize my own ability to do things, because the liberty is simply the capacity to act. And my capacity to act puts restraints on other people and what they can do to me. Okay, I can act, but I can't act unjustly. Social justice takes the equation away from me and puts it in the abstract. And I can't do anything with that. So
And they could do it unjustly as well.
Yes.
We've seen it.
Exactly. So there's no leader of these many, because there are so many different groups and ideologies under the umbrella of social justice. But there are people who sometimes fill in for certain groups and subgroups in social justice, and they are like voices for them. There are like people like the ACL, or institutions like the ACLU. They fight for environmental justice. You tweeted about that recently. Against environmental racism. They fight, and they fight systemic inequity or whatever. Or the NAACP does the same kind of thing. The Anti-Defamation League does it in terms of like Jewish folk. There's different variations of social justice. So there's no one leader, but there is one key principle in all of their approaches, and it's that their approaches come from an idea of justice, which has been grossly murdered and taken away from me, and thus therefore destroys the ability for real justice to happen.
Wow. I mean that's you're nailing this. Like you really have a solid grasp on this whole situation. I mean, you were in college. You mentioned it. You were in not debate, but critical thinking, or right?
Debate. Yeah, absolutely.
You were in debate, right? So you're clearly very good at laying out logically the situation, and it's refreshing to have it broken down so well. It's helping me. Well, because I have these conversations often, and the more I have them, the more I can bring up stuff to help me have those conversations. And I think that's really important, because my number one thing that I always, whenever I'm having these conversations, is like, how do we actually make a difference? Like, how do we talk to people and who have been indoctrinated, or who are in this world, and how do we make a difference? Like, how do we stop it? Because I love the Constitution. I love the system of America when it is working for everyone, because I truly feel like you're right. My rights are enshrined by the Constitution. They didn't give them to me. Like, you get rid of the Constitution, I'm still gonna want to be free. I'm still gonna want to say whatever I want to say, and be a free man on this planet. And one of the like overarching things is, find the person that is close to you, that might be in there, that you might already have an established relationship with, and be there for them.
Yes.
So and not be angry, right? So like, be there for them, not be angry, and also know what you're talking about, so you can logically explain stuff. And I think that the more people are, talking about, because they're not letting it go, right? They're not gonna. I know sometimes some people are like, man, I'm so sick of this kind of conversation. It's like, me too. Like, I don't want to have to dedicate time of my life to have to like explain to these people how shallow it is to focus on skin color and like gender identity, and the stuff that isn't you. Like, that's not who you are, right? Like, like, if I asked you who you are, I want to know like what you do for you. Like, what do you do for
Yes.
you? Outside of politics and philosophy. Do you bowl? Do like what makes you you? Like, that's what I want to know about people. I don't want to like
Yeah.
what does it matter what your skin color is, or like who someone wants to sleep with? Like, why do I
Yeah.
care? What does that change your morals or your value as a human? Like, it doesn't. These people
Right.
put it on
I
the
agree.
forefront. I
Yes.
don't know.
Yes. Yes.
It's sad.
Um, and it's the result again of a perspective. I've been talking a lot about this idea using this word. It's called approximation.
Okay.
And I like to call the various uses of this idea, depending on which way I'm using it, approximation understanding or approximation ethics. All approximation ethics is when I assume something is right or wrong on the basis of what it's associated with. So let's give a very popular example. The sanctions on Russian people, as they are, they're sanctions on Russian people.
Right.
A lot of people are calling for sanctions on Russia because Russia is associated with Putin. Yet, this is the exact claim that Biden has made. He's like, yeah, we want to hurt Putin where it hurts. Like, this is a claim that everyone's making. The EU is making it. The British Foreign Secretary with Blinken has made it yesterday. Like, they're all making this claim that we want to hurt Putin and Russia. Okay. Well, that belief doesn't actually look at the merits of the sanctions themselves. It doesn't justify the sanctions by any logical standard. The sanctions are not justified just because they hurt someone you don't like. They have to be justified on the basis of moral ground. And if the sanctions are not hitting people that deserve to be hit, then that's not moral. Therefore, these sanctions are not moral because they're affecting Russian athletes, Russian people. They're affecting people who have nothing to do with Putin or his government. They are affecting every single everyday people, and also they're affecting Americans too. Americans are being affected by these sanctions. They're being punished by these sanctions as well. We're seeing it in the prices. We're seeing it in the inflation. We're seeing it in so many things. But the
Well,
approximation
they are trying to blame all of the inflation and the gas prices on Putin 100%,
yeah,
which
it's
is
nonsense.
kind
Yeah, they are trying to do that. Yeah,
kind of crazy.
it's
But
just yeah, I mean, it's not true. When you have an economy that just opened up in the past few months after being locked down for so much, you're going to have a spike. You're going to have a spike in demand, which drives up the prices. That's number one. Then you have an economy that is not dependent on oil that America could have gotten from its own lands, and instead dependent on oil from a foreign country. And it's not all of our oil, but enough of our oil comes from Russia. About 3% comes from Russia. Enough that energy companies are able to cut costs if they're able to import oil from there. But now that they have that supply line cut off from them, they have to economize in other ways. How do they do that? Rise prices. So I mean, it's the people and a lot of the people in the Biden administration and in power are these moralizers, these grandstanders, these sanctimonious bastards. Excuse my language. That are trying to rip people apart on the basis of false ground. No, seriously, all of these people are expecting others not to actually have an understanding of the nature of these things. But you understand basic economics, you can see why the prices are rising. But they're like, oh no, it's just Putin and his wars. No. It's more complicated. But anyway, so the approximation viewpoint, I don't want to go on too long, I'm sorry, but the approximation viewpoint is that since it's hurting someone who's supposedly evil, the action is good. And this is not logically good, a logically consistent viewpoint, because just because something is associated with something does not mean that it is right. If I can go out and shoot someone in the head, and that person was associated with someone who was a bad person, but that person was not themselves a bad person, why shoot them in the head? You have no justification. That's the approximation viewpoint. And unfortunately, it plagues people of every ideology. A lot of us will look at something and say, if this person is for it, I'm against it. A lot of us will look at something and say, okay, if this thing is associated with this other thing that I don't like, I'm against that thing as well. It's classic guilt by association, but that is the exact same way that so many people make their day-to-day ethical decisions. And that is so dangerous. And we've got to escape that and go back to grounded moral thinking. Look, it may not be popular to say that we're not going to sanction Putin and we're not going to coerce people into not giving their goods to Russia during this time, but it's the moral thing to say. I can't tell you what to do or what not to do regarding to Putin. If you and America want to go and do some business in Russia, I should not be sanctioning you or stopping your ability to do that. I don't have the moral right over your property. You can do what you want with your property, so long as it's not directly affecting my property or my rights. Yet, approximation says if your property is associated with someone who is evil, even if it's not a direct association, then boom, bye. No, that's not how you build a moral society. It's not how you preserve the ideas of justice. It's not how you preserve the ideas of rights. It's how you create a dictatorship. It's how you
Well, all these
create a
people,
dictatorship.
they've convinced themselves that it is moral, that it is the virtuous thing to do, regardless. The ends justify the means to all these people.
Mhm,
They don't
mhm.
care that they're hurting anyone else. They don't realize that um, cutting that gas off, even though America has enough gas to last us 450 years, I believe the
Yep.
number was, and that's crazy. Like, you don't think we could come up with something in the next 400 years that there's the gas? I mean, I love this planet. I don't want to dig this planet out, but they're trying to replace it with batteries, which we have to dig out lithium. Now there's a
Yes.
$4 trillion contract for Greenland to mine Greenland. And it's like, it's the same thing. You're just mining a different thing, but as long as it's not in the States. But they're not realizing that gas not coming over is going to not only increase the prices of everything, is that the
Yes.
transporting everything around is going to make it even more expensive, and then it's going to make it even more expensive. It's going to be like this never
Yep.
ending cycle. And then they keep printing. 80% of the US dollar has been printed in the past 2 years. That's insane.
Fiat currency,
Insane to
man.
think about.
Fiat currency, man.
Right? I mean, it's crazy. I'm so grateful that I luckily bought a house last year
Yes.
before it kind of like the inflation just keeps going up, and I put
Yep.
my money in savings into a property. So like now I have a house. So I'm like very, very grateful for that.
Congrats,
Uh
man.
thank you. But I'm worried though. I'm worried for a lot of the people that are renting, that that I don't want society to crumble, right? And I want to be optimistic, but again, I'm a optimistic realist, and I see this path that we're on, and it's scary, because I don't see it going well with someone like Biden in charge of making the decisions that he's making. So let me ask you this:
Yeah.
what do you suggest someone like me? I mean, maybe not someone like me, but that someone who doesn't have a platform, maybe, because I feel like me even just having you on my show is doing a great uh, benefit for the people listening, because you have really
Oh,
solid takes, and I see my
thank
chat
you.
agrees. And reminder, chat, definitely go follow him. All of his stuff is down below. Check out his website. He's got lots of videos on his website, on his channel. You think this is good, go listen to his takes on other things.
Well,
But
you're very nice,
let me
man.
but what do you suggest? Right? I mean, you have a very good understanding of what's happening, but what do we do? What do we do about it? Right?
Yep. Okay, the first man, the first thing we got to do. I always get nervous when this question is asked because, like, sometimes I don't even know.
Understandably.
But
Yeah, that's a good
and guess what?
response, though.
Yeah, yeah.
It's fair.
Sometimes I don't even know. And guess what? There is no one answer for everything. Some
I understand that.
sometimes sometimes you just have to sit down and say, you know what? Right now I'm stumped, but I'm going to keep watching, learning, and eventually something's going to come to my noggin and come out and all that good stuff. It was phrased
Yeah.
very awkwardly, but we're rolling with it.
Well, no, I
But,
totally
yeah,
get that. You're right, and that's what I do. I
yeah,
wanna, have more conversations like this because I don't know the answer, and that's why I
yeah,
ask everyone, because maybe
yeah,
there's a little, like, a little bit of insight that will just arise from that question
yeah.
being
I got
asked.
some. I got some general ideas, and so I like to break this down into genres because, like, we can't do anything about everything. Well, we can't do something about everything. We have
Right, right,
to,
right.
because I mentioned human beings were very limited creatures. Our energy is scarce. We gotta limit our perspective.
Mhm.
So let's break it down to a category. Let's say, I don't know, what do we do about I don't know. One issue that affects a lot of people is the wokeness in schools. The kids in schools being taught things about gender transition, clubs being held without parents knowing, this sort of revolt against parent permission. What do you do about that, right? And there are actually very actionable things you can do about that, because ultimately what happens in the schools will eventually transpire in society. What happens in
True.
universities will transpire in society. I mean, you give
We're
people a
seeing
set
it.
of terms and beliefs. Oh, we're seeing it 100%. It's one of the reasons why almost every major corporation in America has a diversity, equity, and inclusion office.
Hmm.
Those they didn't come out of nowhere. I mean, there are people in HR departments, stock full of HR departments that believe this crap, that were taught this crap in college. Young folk taught this.
Yep.
How many HR departments didn't implement this stuff? And
Yep.
ESG, all that kind of stuff. It didn't come out of nowhere. So what you can do, you can't really do much when someone's grown and they have their own mind. You can't really do much. I've had parents ask me, Christian, my daughter's in grad school. She's 26 and she just doesn't like me anymore. Thinks I'm racist. I'm like, you got to love her, man. You have to love her still, because right, ultimately she's making her own decision about what she thinks. So you can't do much right then. But what you can do, while you still have some jurisdiction over your children's life, you can homeschool them. You can demand school choice. Or if you're in an area that has school choice, you can use school choice to get them into better schools that better reflect your values. You can join an organization that fights for school choice. There are many of them. I forget, there's one organization that sends me stuff all the time that fights for school choice. They take volunteers, they set up chapters in your states, and they can be very, very effective if you get enough people. I mean, I think the wokeness in schools, the 1690 Project, all that has awakened a sleeping giant. Because so many parents that were previously apolitical, so many people that were previously apolitical began seeing what was happening in their community, and they're like, oh, heck no, which is why critical race theory was the cash cow of 2021. It is the cash cow of 2022. It's going to be the cash cow of this midterm election, because so many people who had no interest in politics are now getting in. They're hitting the books. The walkaway movement's a very good example of all of this. A lot of walkaway people had no interest in politics whatsoever. They were uncritically Democrats. Then they saw things like, hold on, this doesn't seem right. They began going down the rabbit hole, and boom, just got out. So staying aware and staying active on particular issues that you know you can do things in is a good idea. Also, and this is going to seem a little bit simple, but it's probably the basis of any kind of other action. You've got to be willing to go out, put down the phone, put down Twitter, and go out and talk. You've got to be willing to go out and talk. Learn who your neighbor is. Learn who your kid's friend is. If your kid's grown, then go get some friends yourself. If you don't have friends, go out to events, join social groups, and talk. Talk to people. Learn their not just a small talk. Oh, how you doing? How's your morning? That's just the basis for a superficial interaction. I don't do small talk personally. I can't stand it. Some people, it's an effective marketing tool. I get it. I want to know who you are deep inside. I don't want to know how your morning is. Your morning's going to change every day. But who you are, your values, your convictions, that's something that needs to be permanent. So go out and talk to people and ask them, hey, and throw it in the conversation. Hey, what do you think about some things that are going on right now? And if they say, I don't know, inform them, educate, give them resources. That's how you plant seeds and start fires in the minds of men. How do you think this American Revolution happened? It just didn't come out of nowhere. There were a few people in the colonies that hated King George for putting taxes on their tea and ordering troops in their house. That was not a majority of people in the colonies, not at all. But then Common Sense happened, Thomas Paine's pamphlet, which talked about natural law, natural rights philosophy, and how what the king was doing was condemnable. Then the grievances happened. And Common Sense, the grievances, all these popularly printed stuff went out to the population, and it caught fire in the minds of people who were previously docile, who were previously sedate. They got up and said, no, something has got to give. Something has got to change. I only believe these things because I had been taught so much of my life to believe these things and to be pacified, but no more. And even then, it wasn't a majority of the nation, but it was enough people who said, that's enough. This is not going to happen. They took up arms. Not saying we have to do that. Don't do that. But they took up arms and they fought back and revoked the yoke of the monarchy over their country and established what is now a 270-plus-year-old greatest experiment in human freedom on the history of this planet. This was not a majority of people. This was not most people. This was some people who had the right ideas, had the fire within their hearts, and used that fire to go ahead and create a morally righteous situation. It only takes a few people. It never takes an entire society. There are no masses. There are only groups of men with the right ideas or the wrong ideas. And you have to figure out which one you fit into. Because if you don't, you'll be misled. Let me stop. I'm going to start preaching.
I don't
Let me
want you to
stop.
stop. I don't want you to stop.
Let me
This
stop.
is the
Let
kind
me-
no, this is the kind of stuff that people need to hear. This exact right here, this conversation, what you've just been saying, like that is so important that people need to realize. And you kind of it almost feels like we're at that stage right now. There is, like you mentioned, like critical race theory, like parents are realizing like what's going on with their kids, like they're being indoctrinated, like what's up with this, and like people are like,
Mhm.
I mean, there's Robin DeAngelis is
Oh,
fighting for
God.
school choice. He's pushing for school choice. Oh, not Robin DeAngelo.
I thought you said D'Angelo. I'm like, oh,
I'm
D'Angelo's
sorry.
okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah, okay.
Hold on,
D'Angelo's,
hold on,
yeah, I'm familiar with his work. Yeah,
hold on. I said his name wrong.
yeah. I think it's D'Angelo's. I think so. I don't
Or
know.
excuse
Um,
me, it's Corey. So right.
oh,
So
Corey. Yeah,
Corey DeAngelis is fighting for school choice.
yeah,
Robin DeAngelo is grifting
yeah,
off
yeah.
of all that stuff. But Corey
Oh,
DeAngelis
totally.
is out there fighting and making differences because of all of the parents that are realizing how bad the school system has become, and they're starting to talk. They're starting to push back and realize that they can't be apolitical, even though it almost feels like it's not a political thing. It isn't, although they are joining forces because the political realm is now, like you said, it's in HR, it's in these corporations, it's in politics too. You know, it's like nothing's safe from this SJW culture of, I mean, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
It's everywhere, and I think people are finally fed up. And I get that vibe from you. You know, that you're fed up with it, and I don't blame anyone who is. I
Yep.
am. I'm fed up with it, and you know, it's
Yeah.
good to see that people are actually um getting out there and making a difference. And I have
Yes.
to believe it. I have to believe it. You know.
Yeah, no, Adam, and so yeah, so you can everyone can make a difference. But go back to Thoreau. Use your genius, use what you're good at, what you're skilled at, what's in your heart that you can do, and then apply it to something like something that'll help make a difference. You know me, my goal is not to change the whole world. It'd be nice. Oh, if you believe me, it'd be nice. My goal is to light a what I call a pensive fire within the hearts of people that will make them think and consider politics in the world differently, which will ultimately affect how they interact with other people in society, how they vote, and ultimately the kind of people we get in power. Now, even if I don't influence a single person to think more critically when they vote, if I can influence them to think critically in general and in their life, I've done my job. So
Yep.
I'm using what I think I'm okay at, my ability to speak and reason, to go out and help people find something deeper. Someone may be very good at, like what Scott Pressler's doing. I mean,
Yep.
Scott Pressler, if you talk about doing something, making a difference, whether you agree with him or not, the guy is a very savvy political activist. He is
Yeah, he is.
humble, savvy,
Yep.
connected,
Mm,
smart. He's one of the most generous, gracious men I met. I was at a walkaway rally in Atlanta a few years ago,
okay.
and he was there. He was towering, like he's like a
Very
towering
tall.
figure. He's
Yeah, he
really
is.
tall. And he came and I looked at him. I'm like, oh hey Scott. He's like, oh hi, how are you? I'd never met him in my life. He's like, how are you doing? How's it been? I'm like, I felt immediately welcomed. We took a picture and everything. And it's just and at that point I didn't really appreciate the significance of what he was doing. After doing some research, I'm like, this guy is killing it.
Yeah, he is.
So and he's obviously very good at that. The point is, there's a Scott Pressler in every one of us, and we
Yep.
can use that to address certain issues. So I'm using the platform that I'm building. Other folks may go out and campaign like Scott's doing. Other folks may go out and fight for school choice. Other folks may go out and start a nonprofit. There's all kind of things you can do, all
Yeah.
manner of things you can do, but just make sure it's something that is, number one, is worthwhile. It fits your goals and your values, and you can do well.
I like it. You know, and I feel like that's what I'm doing. I love being on stage. I've been on stage my entire adult life in
Yeah.
many different facets of different, careers. And I love it. And I also love talking to people. And I got to say, anytime you want to come on my show, you are welcome to come on my show.
You're nice, Adam. Thank you.
I really like your takes on things. We just kind of been, free flowing about conversations. Usually my show is about specific things that's going on. But of course, when I have people on for the first time, it's always like, I want to know about you. Granted, we didn't really even talk about your life.
Ah,
I kind of want to hear a little more about your life, if you don't mind.
absolutely.
Where are you from? I don't even know where you're from. Like, where are you from originally? Just curious.
Yeah, well, I was born in Pennsylvania, the state of Pennsylvania. Nice state.
East Coast, West Coast.
East Coast, East Coast.
All right,
Pennsylvania is West Coast.
near
No,
PA.
East Coast.
No.
Was
The PA is like a big, huge rectangle. I'm talking like East PA or West
oh,
PA.
oh.
I lived in Pennsylvania too.
Okay. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Yeah, I was born in Harrisburg, so that's like southeast.
Harrisburg.
Maybe?
Okay.
Yeah, like southeast.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think. Yeah, something.
Yeah,
Like,
like
yeah, it's like southeast.
inland from Philadelphia. So,
Yeah,
but
exactly. Yeah.
but on that side of the state, right on. Cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Beautiful
And
area.
so,
I've been through Harrisburg. It's beautiful.
the downtown is beautiful. The rest of the city has some serious crime problems. Man, it's some serious poverty problems too. But the riverfront is beautiful and everything.
What city in America doesn't have that problem though?
Yeah, okay, but here's the thing. Like, you have like a mile or two of downtown, which is really pretty. You walk any direction, you're in the hood. Not
Sounds like
disparaging people who
Baltimore.
live in. Oh, Baltimore's worse. Baltimore's worse. The downtown area is beautiful. I've been on the pier. I've been on the World War II submarine, the aquarium. Beautiful stuff. You walk a 1 mile down that one block down that way, you're in the hood. You better watch out because Baltimore don't play. They don't play over there.
I know. Yeah.
So, but no, look, I think that aesthetically it is very pretty. There's a lot of history in Harrisburg, and so it always will be my hometown, and I'm very proud of that. But yeah, I was born there. I moved to Georgia with my family when I was 10 years old. I was raised by a single mother, actually, so I moved there with her when I was 10 years old. I stayed in Georgia for the rest of my life at that point, for about 11 years. I'm 21 right now, by the way.
You're only 21? No way. Are you serious?
No.
I am shocked. I had no idea how old you were. It didn't matter.
How old did you think?
I was it feels like you have a lot of life experience. So I was thinking somewhere more of like 27.
At least you didn't say 35. I had a woman say Happy Father's Day to me once, and I was so dismayed. I'm like, ma'am, I don't have any kids.
Well, people don't think I'm 38.
I didn't. I thought you were like 29.
It's just the same thing. It's like I feel like there's this window of like, it really, age just becomes kind of like, all right, well, whatever. It's like it becomes like a mental, like, where are you at mentally, right? Are you just blissfully living in the world, or are you very aware and trying to further your mind? And you clearly have done a lot of work on understanding life by studying philosophy and going to furthering yourself. So 21, I am very impressed with your mental fortitude and where you're at. So that's very impressive. So
I appreciate.
So are you still in Georgia?
No, I moved Georgia, and I'm now resident of North Carolina. I moved from
North
Georgia,
Carolina.
and I graduated. I graduated college in December, so I just got out of college.
Congratulations!
Yeah. It was time. I couldn't. The academy is deteriorating in the worst way, so I couldn't wait to get out. I had to get out, man. It was time.
What did you go to school for?
I studied philosophy, actually.
So you went to school for philosophy. It makes sense. Well, I'm not surprised.
Well,
It's
yeah, but
no
a
wonder.
lot of folks, are just are very. They're like, okay, well, what do you mean philosophy? What job do you do with that? And that's the question I always got asked. But I
Mhm.
currently, aside from my YouTube, which is my main project, I'm the spokesperson for a organization called Color Us United. It's also my bio on Twitter, and it's basically like a nonprofit group that is
Okay.
fighting for a colorblind society, fighting for individualism, fighting against racial preferences, critical race, all that kind of stuff, and fighting for colorblind society. And
I like it.
so that's my day job, so to speak. And my knowledge of philosophy has served me quite well in that day job. But ultimately, my main aim is to be a full time political commentator. That is my main goal. That is, I think that the political discourse needs more philosophical voices. We have too
Agreed.
many bomb throwers. We have too many people who are angry, and
Too many
so
lawyers.
yeah, too many damn lawyers. I agree. Who oh God, too many lawyers who are trained who are trained to talk nicely, but don't really think all that deeply.
Right.
Yes, I agree. And so, becoming a political commentator and taking on these issues and applying a philosophical take to those issues, that's my main career goal. And so far, we're doing decently well. And as time persists, it is my prayer that we'll continue to do well.
Yeah. I have some people in chat that have Michael in chat just says, "Can we put you in charge?"
No,
I
no,
well,
no. Oh no.
hey, don't 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 discredit it. I mean, there's something to be said. I mean, what was the average age of the founding fathers, right? Wasn't it like 20? Those guys were
Yeah,
young.
Jefferson was like 20, and when he was in, yeah, yeah, he was
Young
like,
those are young men, but they lived in a world where y they weren't coddled by society, right?
yeah,
Everyone had to learn how to live life really quickly or you just didn't survive, right? We don't have that
right,
anymore. We are so spoiled, and there's too many people out there that don't realize how good we actually have it right now.
yes,
Um, so, having knowledge about the past, especially the great thinkers of the past, that you can bring that kind of their reflections forward, right? It's not
yeah,
imitate. So I actually I want to close this thread earlier because you said
yeah,
imitation, right, is akin to suicide, or what was the exact quote? I don't want to misquote
yeah,
it.
yeah. Emerson said imitation suicide. Yeah,
It is suicide. So there's a difference between imitation and passing knowledge along.
agreed,
Right? I mean, and they're
agreed.
2 different things, like, you can just imitate them by, like, saying it as though you said it, or you can be like,
Yeah,
"Look what we could learn from this,"
yeah,
"Let's evolve," right? There's
yeah,
something to be built there, and we're not building anymore, right? Society has we've used the same engine, combustion engine for 100 years. We get a lot of our, uh I mean, all of our stuff is basically like, "All right, this is good, so let's just use this forever," and it's like, why are we gonna stay with the status quo? Because 'Cause we're getting stagnant, we're losing our purpose, people are finding purpose in whatever SJWs, all this other stuff where, I don't know, we're it feels like we're hitting a wall, and we need it's funny, I was gonna say we need fresh ideas, but while telling you, you're bringing in these age-old ideas because,
yeah.
we're humans, right? We've been I we act the same. People are think we're in such, like, some special time right now, but it's like,
Mhm,
yeah, just because there's technology doesn't mean, like, the fundamental, human mind is different from 1,000 years ago.
exactly.
They're still the
Humans are
same
still the
type.
same.
Yeah, they're still the same, right?
Yes. Oh yes.
Yeah,
We just have more things to work with,
right.
basically.
Yeah. Well, and the internet, which is a whole different thing,
Yes.
right? I mean,
Oh God, it's an alien. It's an alien
the
life form, as
internet,
Bowie would say.
right? I mean, it suddenly we're connected everywhere, and we've never been more disconnected, right?
Exactly.
It's
Yes.
such a weird dynamic, the internet.
Oh yeah.
What is your take on that? I'm curious what you think about that.
I think the internet's one of the most beautiful things that ever happened to mankind, but I think its consequences are some of the most dangerous. This
It's a good way of
idea
putting it.
that
Yeah.
this idea, well, some of its consequences, not all of them, some of it. I mean, it's allowing us to have this conversation from many, many
True.
miles apart, and,
Right.
and with the
Right.
people who are also probably many, many miles apart. So that's wonderful. The interconnectedness that can allow ideas. The internet kind of has this has like the same effect as the printing press did, but much more efficient and less work. Because the
Yeah.
printing press that caused a revolution. The moment you're able to print things in mass and get it out to people, that caused the Protestant Reformation. Now, the
Yep.
internet, there's been several revolutions that have been hosted on the internet, whether it's the Arab Spring, which was conducted through Telegram, whether it was the several of the protests against Putin in Russia have also happened through Telegram coordination. Occupy Wall Street was fundamentally a creation of the internet. Now, whether you agree with what happened there or not, I mean, I'm not really all into their grievances with the capitalism, but you can admire the fact that a lot of internet savvy people were able to organize this major worldwide event. And again, it was worldwide because of
Well,
the
I would
transmission
argue.
of
I would
information.
argue that it's corporatism that they were really fighting against, right?
I
Because
hope so, because it was hijacked by a bunch of left-leaning people who hated capitalism, thought
right.
that all corporations or all CEOs were greedy and they needed to be torn down, things like that.
Well, they are. They a lot of them are.
Not all of them.
You know,
Not a lot of them
a
are.
lot of them are. Right. There are some that aren't.
No.
Yeah, I know, but it's this. I love capitalism. Capitalism
Yeah.
has raised more people out of poverty in the past 15 years than all of humanity.
Yeah.
And it's free market systems are good, right?
Yeah.
But
I
when it
dislike crony
becomes
capitalism.
crony capitalism
Right.
is akin to corporatism, right? They're very
Yes.
similar, right? So it's like
Yeah.
once there's so many monopolies going on right now. It's like I thought that was illegal, but people don't care anymore. Well, why not? Because they're complacent, they're happy with the status quo, they're getting their products, they're buying their stuff, and they're not paying attention in life because they're numb to it, right? They will blindly follow the groupthink. And it's every time I start going on tangent, it feels like we've said it multiple times. There's so many different facets of all the issues that you can't just be like, it's this, because it's not just that. It's all these different things compiled together to like, now we have society as it is. And how to, you know what? I loved your answer. Yeah. I got to just give you some props. And I didn't say it earlier. School choice and being aware of what your kids are learning. I think that is so important, because that is going to be how we really fix things. I think that is the number one positive move forward, is make sure that kids are having a proper education. What's the name of your day job? What is that corporation, or not corporation?
Nonprofit. Sorry.
Nonprofit. What is it?
It's called Color Us United, and you can find more information at colorusunited.org. I'm not sure if you remember what happened with the Salvation Army the last few months, Adam.
Did you know what happened? Tell me what's going on.
Oh, so they were exposed over Thanksgiving and Christmas for putting out this document to their employees called "Let's Talk About Racism."
Oh, goodness.
And in that document, they said that Christians need to repent on behalf of the church because the church is racist. They said that colorblindness is evil. They said that, yes, and they were basically dressing up wokeness in biblical terminology. So what Color Us United did back in June of last year, we found about the story. We collaborated with a few officers within the organization. We launched a petition that got over 15,000 signatures from Salvation Army members and supporters. We did a media campaign, blasted across everywhere, Fox News and everything, Daily Wire, all that kind of stuff. And we got them to trend on Twitter, and we got them to rescind that curriculum. Not only did we get them to rescind that curriculum,
nice.
Not only did we get them to rescind that curriculum, but we also got the national commander, who is over all of the territories in the United States, to release a video calling us out explicitly in saying that we're waging a war on Christmas and the poor by exposing the Salvation Army's wokeness. Oh yeah, I'll send it to you on Twitter. It's very funny because then the International General of the Salvation Army,
Wow.
who's over the entire thing, retweeted it. So the very upper echelons of leadership were mad that we called them out for their wokeness, which is just has nothing to do with the Bible or anything like that. So
The sad part is there's a huge group of people that believe them and that now think your group is some sort of
evil,
probably racist because you don't want to see color and you want to focus on the characteristics of a person's character.
Yeah,
that's
and
weird how that
we've
works.
gotten a lot of hate mail too. A lot of hate mail. It's very interesting stuff. But hey, it's all right. It's all right.
What does it look like? What do people write that hate on a nonprofit that's trying to spread like the idea of a colorblind world where you don't focus on something, basically shallow things that don't make a person, right? You can't change who you like, what you look like. So why are you putting on the forefront? What can people say to that? Like, I just
most of the times the critiques are quite primitive, right? They're like, oh, F you, we're coming for you, you need to go to hell, you're doing a bad service to this world. Who do you think you are? You have no power over. It's very primitive stuff. But yes, that's the website. That's the website right there.
Advocating for a race-blind America. I like it. I like that.
Yes,
we shouldn't be focusing on race. Colorist United is a home for those who want to live in America united in our individuality and freedoms. We will support those who will fight for a united and free America. I love it. That's fantastic. That's what I mean. Definitely check us out. ColorUsUnited.org if you want to read more. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out after the show.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say I'm gonna add this to the description so people can they can find it.
Yeah, it's a really enjoyable job, and it's part of that action I was talking about. Us going out and actually fighting institutions who do this kind of stuff. So again, use your gifts, guys. Use your genius, and apply that to places that are going to help. That you can be effective in. I think that's the YouTube space and the podcasting space and Colorist United, and so that's what I did. That's what I'm doing.
Dude, I'm really happy to have had this conversation. Thank you so much for joining me. I got some super chats. I'm gonna get into. Let's see here. First and foremost, of course, we have Robert Wiles starting it off. He says, "I hope this makes Betty and Diana Francisco smile. I can't wait to see my niece's face talking to her or taking her to Spider-Man Saturday. Be blessed." Crigler Coffee #1. You like coffee? You a coffee drinker?
I love coffee. I drink it every day.
Well, I've got a pleasant surprise for you. I have my own coffee company, and it is the freshest coffee that you can get. So I need you to do me a favor. I need you to go to criglercoffee.com. It's really easy. It's just my last name, criglercoffee.com. Pick out a blend. I'm gonna send you a bag. And then
that's very nice of you.
Just give me your details on Twitter, and I'll get you a bag.
Yeah, that's very nice of you, Adam. Thank you. I love coffee, so I'm excited to chase it now.
Freshest. I got some. I've been sipping on some Crigler coffee. I made a fresh pot earlier. It's like I just had the desire for some fresh coffee. We got another one, Ruroni. Sorry if I'm not saying that correctly. I've never seen that before. Ruroni. But it's spelled like it should sound cooler than maybe I'm saying it. And I apologize if it's not cool. Correct there. It says, sadly, it is also stated in our Constitution that the government cannot prevent people from the right to assemble. That is correct. And that's why I was pretty impressed with Sweden, because they were like, it's in our Constitution. We can't stop people from gathering. We can't lock people down, and the American government felt the need to go ahead and do it anyway, even though it is actually in our Constitution, the right to assemble.
Yep.
and that's frightening. People get Sweden wrong too, because it's not a social. It is a socialist country, but it's also capitalistic country as well. People are like
it's
Bernie.
It's a hybrid.
Yeah, it's a hybrid, and I like that. It's a good hybrid, but it's also, I think, 11 million people. And the taxes are crazy in Sweden. So
like 56%.
Yeah, they
income
pay high
tax.
taxes, right? But they
Yeah.
also, it comes back in other ways. But they also have private insurance if you want private insurance. So there's other. Bernie Sanders totally misrepresents Sweden. He always
I agree.
calls well, look at Sweden, and it's like, well, you're totally lying about what Sweden is. But
yeah, exactly. I agree.
Rude Trav says Elon called out the ESG for saying that supporting war is a positive egg, but energy independence is a negative. Also, have you checked out No More? I haven't checked it out, that song yet, but I will. I was taking care of some things, but I will check that out. Wolf7 Music says, whether it's media, news, content creation, etc., most people seem to think it's better to be first and safe rather than accurate and / quality and risk controversy.
I agree. I've seen it before I got involved. Before I graduated from college, before I got involved in YouTube, actually, I basically just wrote for a year and 3 months. So I wrote for a lot of journalistic publications, Washington Times, Washington Examiner. I wrote, so I have my foot, and I don't really look back. I don't smile upon my brief time writing for all those places, because my writing was conformed to the standards of the various editors who didn't really want depth. They wanted clickbait. They wanted things that would make their, and so but unfortunately, that's what it's about. Unfortunately, it's all about being first with news, not having a good analysis of the news. And I said, you know what? When I do my own operation, things will not be this way. I'm going to not be one of these current event channels that covers every single aspect of every single issue the moment it happens, like some
New York Post.
Popular.
New York Post will report on anything. I can't.
Just New York Post, though. There's some content creators who do that too. But
quartering. Quartering. No, I love you. I love you. No, Jeremy. No, the quartering is great. He does report on everything, though. No, he's cool. I agree. He's cool.
Yeah,
he's very nice.
So I've always vowed not to do that. So there are times where I'll talk about an issue that happened a few days ago because I found a new insight in the issue. So that's how I do things. But
well, I talk about things that are happening on the daily, but I also,
that's fine too.
I talk about things that I like a lot, also like space and exploration, sciences, that new discoveries, ancient history. I'm fascinated with, thousands of years ago, like what life was like.
Me too.
Just to be a fly on the wall to see what it was like back then, and then of course understand the languages of wherever I was visiting. I don't know. I could probably do better on YouTube if I focused more on what was trending, but I wouldn't be as happy, right? And I'm doing this for me as much as I am doing it for my audience, right? I mean, my audience, without my audience, I'm nothing on here. But I wouldn't enjoy it as much if I was just doing like, hey, this is what's trending. Even though I don't fully understand all of the different things that are trending, I would rather, kind of read into one thing. I haven't even talked about this Ukraine-Russia thing because I don't know. There's just so much. The more I look into it, the more I'm like, I can't touch this, because half the people are over here, half the people are over here, and I don't even believe those two sides. It's crazy.
That's exactly why you should touch it. I mean,
really?
I'm not. Here's what I think. Now, far be it from me to give advice you're obviously doing quite well. You have a very good operation here. So far be it from me. So take this with a grain of salt.
No, I
But
want to hear
yeah,
what everyone's
yeah,
thought is. I'm cool with
yeah.
it.
But sometimes I'll use a trending topic to further my knowledge in an area. So, for example, foreign policy has been trending over the past 3 weeks with this Ukraine-Russia thing.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't until a few days ago, I didn't really cover foreign policy that much because I was insecure about it. I'm like, oh, Christian, I don't know much about foreign policy. It's not one of my issues that I really like to talk about. But I thought to myself, okay, if you want to provide the most value to people, and you want to show that your philosophical thinking is dynamic and it can go in many places, why don't you do yourself a service, spend a few hours every day looking into these issues, looking into the various parts of these issues, and muster up the best thing you can? And that resulted in my video about Vladimir Putin, which we all have a little bit of Vladimir Putin inside of us. When I basically argue that all of us have the qualities that could lead us to act like Putin, even if we don't have the power or the political resources to do so. And that's a video that doesn't require a high in-depth understanding of foreign policy to make. It requires some background on Putin and what he's done, but you can find that out within a few hours pretty easily and have a good grasp of things. So I'm also working on a video about the ESG environmental stuff happening over in Germany, which is impacting them. So I'm reading a lot about that as well. And I never even made a video about Germany before. So I'm letting every single topic that I want to get into, I'm letting it guide me, so to speak. So foreign policy, I've been wanting to break into it for a long while. Now I am. I started off talking only about critical race theory and race.
Okay.
And after 5 months, it got old. I'm like, look, I've explored almost every inch of this topic, and the answers that I haven't explored have been explored much better by my friend James Lindsay, who's just ridiculously, just incredibly smart. I mean, it's like I'm not here to take his throne or whatever. I don't want his throne. He can have that throne. But I'm like, there are a bunch of other issues that I'm passionate about, that I have a not working knowledge of, that I can talk about and that I will talk about. And some of those issues are in the news that day, and I'll talk about them. Other of those issues are like general trending or not general cultural themes. Any issue, I'll talk about it if I feel like I have a grasp of it. So I'm talking only about critical race. Sorry.
No, I was just going to ask, how often do you put videos out?
I'm aiming for every day. So I had a 3-month hiatus to finish up school. So for like 3 to 4 months, I didn't produce any original content. I just put up old content repackaged. But before then, I was about every day, every other day. Like I was putting out multiple videos a week. And I'm going back to that, because what I do is I typically have like a schedule, a plan, a bunch of videos that I want to do. And I'll think about what I want to say. Then I'll go out and make the videos. I put them up throughout the week. And if there's like a trending thing that I want to talk about that day, I'll reschedule the video for a different day. So I think I do it as consistently as possible, because that's how you grow. So
yeah.
But these days you don't run out of things to talk about.
Yeah, I know, it's true. Wow, we got a $50 super chat from Team Lennon. Thank you so much. That is huge. First time super chat ever. Long time lurker. First time super chat. Thank you. And you've inspired me to start a channel in Hawaii to wake people up. I can't always make your live show, but love your show. Keep kicking ass and get Watson on again. There's a lot to break down, though. First and foremost, thank you so much for your support, and I'm so happy for you. That's awesome. I can't tell you how much I love hearing this, that I've inspired you to do something, to try to make a difference in your own way. As Christian here says, you're using your genius to make a difference in your world, and our world. I love that. So props to that. Is this your channel, Team Lennon? If so, check them out, Team Lennon. I don't know if that's actually your channel. I wish, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but congratulations. That's awesome. And I would love to have Christian on again. Yeah, you're definitely welcome anytime you want,
I'd love to come back on too, man. It's wonderful conversations.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Zachary celebrating 17 months as a member. Wow. Thank you. 17 months. That's crazy. Let's get some UFOs in chat for all those members. I see you. I see those members badges. Michael says Christian is a wise child. Clearly, wish we had more like him. Hey, Drunk 3PO says show and support. Cheers, mate. I see you. I see you're selling a new hat. I really like that it's silver, the rebellion, instead of the gold. So I can still feel really special that I was sent this. He gave me this hat for being on his show. And you can't get the gold, the rebellion. This is Drunk 3PO saying the rebellion. You're in the rebellion, by the way. You may not have known. But
really?
This is essentially getting people to wake up, getting the voice out there, like this conversation, what we just had today, your viewpoints. You are definitely in the rebellion because you're not following the main narrative of groupthink and critical race theory and all that stuff. It's like, so welcome to the rebellion officially. I'll be the first to officially welcome you. And
I appreciate it.
He's incredible. This very nice. He's probably the nicest YouTuber out there. I kid you not.
Ooh,
he is
me?
Drunk 3PO.
Yeah. I'm like,
but you are very nice. Don't get me wrong.
No. I didn't know who you're talking about. I'm like, who?
No, Jay is very nice. He's incredibly nice, very humble. But he's done a lot in his life to go out and help humanity in different ways. He's gone to many different countries to help people in need, to help build wells and schools, and it's just great guy, and deserves some light. Fantastic. Mr. Knox says, did I just watch someone in court break down? Oh man, I'm entertained. Are you talking about Jussie Smollett?
That was happening while we were talking.
That's today, right? Did he get?
That was. I have no. I was watching that before I came on, actually. I came on.
What's his name? Ricada was on. What's his name? Show. Nate the lawyer. They're still live. They're probably still watching it right now. Yeah, Jussie Smollett sentencing. They're still watching it. I wonder if they did they settle, like, chat. What happened? Did they?
I wonder what happened. Because I was watching it beforehand, but when we got on, I stopped. I wonder what happened.
He said because he wasn't suicidal. Who said it, Nacho?
So
sorry.
Yeah,
what were you gonna say?
No, I mean the entire. What I watched before I came on here, the NAACP came up and defended him. Some civil rights lawyer came up and defended him. All these people came up. The Innocence Project, which does good work sometimes, but putting their name on Jussie Smollett's case is not a good thing for them. All the people came up and defended them. And they're all like, he's done so much help to the community. He's given to AIDS Foundation in Africa. He's given so much money, which all obscures the fact that this man lied about a hate crime to create a political conversation on the basis of deceit. And that, for fraud, has to be punished in a civil society. Fraud has got to be punished.
According to chat, everyone's saying he got 150 days in jail and 30 months of probation and 120,000 in fines. That seems like a smack on the wrist.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I think all the resources he wasted, all of the chaos he caused.
That's really it. The chaos.
Yeah. The chaos he caused.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But hey, 100 days in jail is not nothing. That's a few months. That's not nothing. That's something. And then the big fine. He has no income coming in. Yeah, so he's probably going to be feeling the hurt for a very long time. Plus his reputation's already ruined. He's not coming back from this. This is a pretty stark blow.
His name is definitely ruined there. Shanjak says, banned from Facebook for posting random non-political images. I hope Meta fact-check programmers get athlete's foot in their nasal passages. Oh, that's a weird thing to wish upon them.
That's a very...
I was thinking about, I'm going to talk about this tomorrow. Meta or Facebook Meta, whatever.
The metaverse. Yeah.
They just declared today that it's okay to wish violence against Russians now. Did you hear this?
Yep. Yes.
And
yeah,
I just
nothing surprises me anymore, really.
My goodness.
So We've seen the rhetoric coming from the very top down, from the Biden administration, from almost all leaders of the West. Boris Johnson's been one of the worst offenders, where they're
Yeah.
just castigating all of Russia as if they're one single entity, which is not the case, and
Yeah.
treating them all as if they have equal culpability in Putin's insanity. And many of them don't. There've been about over 10,000 dissidents in Russia arrested last time I checked for protesting in
Right.
St. Petersburg and Moscow against Putin's war. And actually, a lot of the information that has been disadvantaging Russian forces on the ground have come from the Federal Security Bureau, which is Russia's intelligence service. This come from Russian agents who are giving information to the West, to Ukraine, to stop their own military because they don't want to do anything to do with the war. So there's an internal revolt against Putin, his own government, which is why he's in a bunker. He's scared. He's paranoid because there's like an internal revolt. And yet all the Russian people are being indicted. It's just not, it has no sense of justice to it. It's what happens when you have this idea of approximation. It's what happens when you have abstract ideas of people as opposed to seeing people as like concrete things and individuals. This is what happens. This is the result of all of it. Villainization for the sake of political benefit.
Yeah.
The ends justify the means, right? But I always like to say this. The means compromise the ends. If you have immoral means, you cannot bring about moral ends. It is impossible.
Well said. I feel like there's a lot of quotes that can be clipped out of this episode that should be spread around, like feel free to clip some of the stuff and share it. I think you've dropped a lot of just good points about different things. It's interesting because that quote right there could pertain to a lot of the conversations we had today, not just this war. So it really on point there. Darth Vader, it's your birthday today, no doubt. Happy birthday. Says, hey Adam, it's my birthday today. Just wanted to get a shout out from you, Darth Vader. This is from me. Hold on, Christian, I love you and all. I have to just do this real quick.
It's fine.
Darth Vader, I want you to know I appreciate your support a lot. I think you're a fantastic person. I see you in other people's chats. I see you spreading out love wherever you go. You drop it like it's hot. You support people. You support me. And it's your birthday today. That's awesome. I really do appreciate you. Where's my bell? This bell is for you. And also, I'm going to. I can't find the power cord, but I would spin this UFO for you if I could. So this is the best I can do. All right. It counts, right? I'm spinning it. Wait. There we go. Get a little top spin going on. All right. That's awesome. Happy birthday. I hope you have a fantastic day today. And I hope it's been fantastic. I hope you have people all around you showering you with love. Chat, if you haven't wished Darth Vader happy birthday. You know what, Darth Vader? I want to give you a bag of coffee, man. You've gifted out so many coffees to different people in my chat over the past year. I can't even I can't even tell you how many people you've gifted coffee to. He's always like, give him a bag of coffee. It's like, Vader, I want you to have a bag of coffee. So I think by now you know how to you go about letting me know your information. So you let me know your information. We're gonna hook you up. Happy birthday. That's awesome. Christian, this has been fantastic.
Yes, sir.
What a great conversation. I'm going to give you the camera for a second. Just tell people what you're doing, how to follow you. I know everything's in the description below, but have at it.
Yeah, so if you want to follow me, you can follow me at my YouTube channel, which is going to be Christian Watson. There's a football guy that has a lot of SEO, and so you might have to scroll a bit. So just type in Christian Watson, Pensive Politics. You'll find me. Please subscribe. That'd be awesome. You can also follow me on Twitter, which is going to be at Official C Watson. And I also have a Getter and a Parler, too. Both of them are the same thing, at Official C Watson, although I'm most active on Twitter. So, yeah, no, I appreciate it, Adam, and I'm really grateful to have been here, and I really hope I can come back. I mean, thank you for your graciousness and everything, man. I really feel welcomed, and I really feel like we had a great conversation.
Thank you. I thought so too. I I think more people need to have conversations like this. And so, yeah, it was a pleasure. So thank
Sure.
you, everyone, for joining us. I will, of course, be back tomorrow. It's Friday. You know what that means. I'm going to be rocking out on my guitars. I'll be talking about the ship that was just rediscovered after 107 years on the bottom of the ocean. Really looking forward to that. I'm also going to be discussing a little bit more about this meta change that's going on and how crazy it is. So tune in tomorrow. I'll be back, of course, here on the Crigler Show. Good night, everybody. All right.